What is up, guys? I'm going to be reacting to your hot takes. You guys have some unpopular opinions. We're going to get to the bottom of these. Regardless of fragrance projection or performance, I like to spray 15 sprays always. I love to watch the world burn. We found him. I'm a total advocate for blind buying. Be the store for everyone in your life you wish to have yours. So that is a really good point. I haven't run into too many situations in my life where people are interested in fragrances and I show them around my collection. I've only interacted with maybe one or two people that really want to get into, or really are interested in picking up a fragrance. I did have a coworker once. He was like, normally in video production, people don't really smell great. So, I mean, they don't smell like dirty animals, but a lot of people in the, video production world, they don't really wear fragrances all that much. They're usually on 12-hour, 3-hour, long hours, and they don't really spray on cologne. So this guy mentioned, he's like, dude, you smell really nice for being in video production. I just want to say. And I did, we got to talking about cologne and stuff, and I did give him a little bottle of Armani Code, the OG, the original. So hopefully he wears it. I haven't talked with him in a while, but, shout out to you. The fragrance community is seriously one of the best. George, the Fragrance Apprentice, just put out a movie. Yeah, that movie is great. If you want to go check that out, George over at Fragrance Apprentice, he made a really cool movie.
I used to get absolutely leathered in Manchester.
Talking about a lot of things about fragrance addiction and fragrance, fragrance thoughts, and it's a good video. You should go check it out. It's like an hour long, so be ready for a marathon. But he brings up a lot of great points about fragrance addiction, shopping addiction. This does really fall under a shopping addiction or fragrance addiction, and so on and so forth. But I think a lot of people get misunderstood about the fragrance addiction stuff, because anytime you develop a hobby or get interested in a hobby, you go to the absolute max. You see it in the same thing with photography. I've been in photography or videography for about 10, 11 years now. And the big thing in video production, it's really funny, but it's called GAS, G-A-S. And that's gear accumulation syndrome. And basically, when you're a photographer or you're getting into photography or videography, you could go out and spend all this money on, lighting equipment, cameras, lenses, all this stuff. And it's the same thing. It is the same thing that fragrance addiction or fragrances have. This is an unpopular opinion, but I think having a fragrance addiction or a fragrance buying obsession is not that bad, considering all the other hobbies. There's a ton of different hobbies. There's photography. You could spend thousands of dollars on cameras and lenses, and they just sit and collect dust. I know a lot about that stuff. But there's also, my girlfriend's getting into fish tanks right now, and you can spend thousands of dollars on getting really cool corals and fish. And every hobby has a point to where you're overdoing it. So it's not a fragrance addiction. Fragrance addiction falls under a shopping addiction, and when you're trying to soothe a grief or anxiety or that kind of thing. And it can definitely fall into that, but I don't think it's that bad from what people think it is. There's a lot of other worse hobbies that you could get into. Like, for instance, I was thinking about starting a Lego channel. That is completely weird, out of the normal. I've never played with Legos before in my life, but I think it would be cool. But I was looking at the cost of Legos. If you collect Legos, if you really like Legos, those are like $300, $500, $600. And if you develop a shopping addiction with Legos, you're gonna be spending a lot of money, and you run out of space too. So I'm just saying that, fragrance addiction is not the biggest thing that, the community makes it out to be. It's really not. They're like this big, and they take up, maybe a shelf or two. So don't get down on yourself if, people are saying, you stop buying fragrances, I mean, obviously control yourself, but, it's really not that bad from other hobbies. Your overall personality, seduction, and charisma, far more important variables than a fragrance you choose to wear. When attracting a potential partner, wear fragrances that embody yourself, but never as a means to an end. I totally agree with this, actually. I mean, fragrances are nice, but fragrances are the icing on the cake, really are. I believe the most important thing that you could do to make yourself more attractive is go to the gym. Go to the gym and eat healthy. For two reasons. Going to the gym makes you feel so much better about yourself. The endorphins are just, you know, a high. And then also eating healthy. Feeling bloated is never attractive for yourself, your self-image. And so getting on a healthy diet and going to the gym will make you far more attractive than a Dior Sauvage will. But Dior Sauvage does smell sexy as fuck. Unpopular opinion number 1. High-end niche fragrances are luxury items. Don't buy them or wear them if you're broke. It's like going to the grocery store in a Lamborghini and then paying with food stamps. Stick to designers and clones. At the end of the day, it's just smelly water. Don't waste your life savings on it. So to comment on unpopular opinion number 1, I actually disagree with you. These luxury items are affordable to the everyday person. Spending $300 on a fragrance is obtainable for an everyday guy. You know, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you could put $30, $50 away each month or 20 bucks a month. And in 6 months, you could have enough to buy that $300 fragrance. I mean, obviously not with $20 a month because that's not math. But what I'm saying is it's obtainable. The everyday guy can buy a Lamborghini and feel really good about himself. Obviously, this falls under external validation and this idea that you need substance to make yourself feel better, which is a deep rabbit hole that you don't want to get into. But I think owning a luxury niche perfume is an excellent thing to do as a man, as a an individual who wants to bring themselves up a level, who want to take themselves seriously, for two reasons. Because it's not like the luxury perfume, spending $300 on a fragrance is not always the biggest thing on the planet, but it does something for your self-esteem. It really does. But what I'm trying to say is it's not like these are luxury items, yes, but they're not out of reach for the everyday guy. If you spend 3 to 6 months saving up, an everyday person could buy a bottle of Creed Aventus and they could be smelling absolutely incredible. But yes, if you're broke, do not buy Creed Aventus. Unpopular opinion number 2, shocker, but girls have taste too. They don't base their opinions on the top 10 videos made by Curly Fragrance. My girlfriend was all in on Prada Luna Rosa, which is far from sexy, so don't believe all these corny videos. And I totally agree with that. Usually fresh and clean fragrances are the way to go for, mass popularity, but the thing about it is these fragrance videos can't apply to everybody. You can't just, you can't make everyone happy, and that's just the reality of things. You could do your best to try to encourage guys to wear certain fragrances that do have a good track record, but for the most part, not every girl is gonna like, what you wear. Not every guy is gonna like what you wear. Some people might get turned off from certain fragrances. A great example is like Oud for Glory. I don't really personally love the fragrance. I have been spending some time with it and I'm kind of warming up to it, but it's not my favorite fragrance and it's not something I would choose to wear all the time. But there are some people who really do love Oud for Glory, and all credit to them. It's all about personal taste, and it's the most subjective hobby in the world, and making fragrance content on the internet is one of the most challenging things on the planet, because it's like, how do you describe what Oud smells like? It's really hard. You should not have or want a giant collection if it's not your job or your hobby. And shopping addiction in fragrance community is a huge issue that isn't talked about nearly enough. I totally agree. And fragrance addiction is really real, and it's not even a fragrance addiction. It's a shopping addiction, and it is a huge problem. You can't mask your emotions with buying items, whether it's buying coffee, whether it's buying shirts, shoes, fragrances, but it really doesn't do much for you. I would counteract though, not everybody getting into the hobby and not everybody who's very interested in perfume has a fragrance addiction. They just want to smell a lot of things. So going back to my other point about other hobbies, the reality of the fact is this hobby is not nearly as expensive as a lot of other hobbies out there. That's not justifying any behavior. That is not validating anybody's bad behavior. If you have a shopping addiction, make sure you reach out, find some help, and get that problem taken care of. If it's grief that you're dealing with, there's a lot of different options out there for talking to people. But the main thing I'm talking about here is the cost of an addiction. The cost of an addiction with other hobbies is extremely higher than a fragrance addiction. For example, I know a lot of people who collect guns and do a lot of gun activity. I don't know the first thing about gun collecting or gun, anything like that, but ammo is extremely expensive. Buying new guns is also an addiction too. And going to the range, it's like that hobby, that's just one of many hobbies out there. Also, tattoos. People get addicted to getting tattoos on their arms and stuff and their body. It's a really cool, it's artistic, but that can fall into an addiction. People can keep buying tattoos and getting tattoos. And so a fragrance addiction, yes, it's bad and people should be warned of it. Fragrance addiction is real, and I'm not validating anybody's bad behavior, but it's really not all that expensive from any other hobby. But I want to preface this, I'm not encouraging addiction behavior. My unpopular opinion, screw a signature scent, wear everything. I totally agree. I actually grew up in this mindset that you had one fragrance and that's your fragrance, and you can't have any other fragrances, and you can't have any other fragrances until you run out of that fragrance. I don't know why this was in my head. No one ever told me this, but that was kind of what I assumed for the longest time, that you only had one fragrance and that's your signature scent. And if you don't like it, too bad. Unpopular opinion number 1, it absolutely makes me cringe when I see people spray fragrances on themselves and rub it on their hands, skin. I agree. It's like there's a whole thing of like this whole myth of like spray it in the air and then walk through it so it's not so powerful, or spray on your wrist and then dab it so it's less concentrated. It's like, no, you don't need to spray on pulse points. You don't need to spray on the hottest part of your body. You don't need to dab. You don't need to dilute your fragrance. Just spray on you and go. Unpopular number 3. I skipped number 2 because it's just he doesn't say he cares for it. So unpopular opinion number 3, booty wife hunting with fragrances. The best way to summarize this, fragrance isn't a magic pill for pulling women. I found this out the hard way a long time ago. I first started my journey. It won't do everything for you. Most certainly won't don you a tail. It goes back into the whole thing. It's it's just the icing on the cake, but it's some damn good icing. Unpopular opinion, must-buys don't exist. Everyone has different taste. This is the biggest problem with producing fragrance content. I could say something smells great. I could say that this water bottle tastes amazing, but there's some people out there who hate the taste of this water. And then people say that I'm full of shit. It's like, first off, how am I full of shit if it's my opinion? And second off, how is my nose broken if I don't like something? Third off, how can I test performance if everyone's skin chemistry is different or environments are different? I live in Colorado where I'm pretty much in the sky. And so it's dry as hell up here. Does performance matter at that point versus sea level? What if somebody's skin is more oily? The fact of the matter is this, it's totally biased and it's super subjective. It's 100% subjective. So it's not even like, yes, take everyone's word with a grain of salt. And don't listen to YouTubers. Don't listen to YouTubers. We're the devil. Unpopular opinion. No, that $25 bottle of juice that does not smell exactly like that $300 bottle of juice. I actually disagree with this comment completely. There's a lot of clones out there right now. There is a lot of fragrances out there that smell absolutely incredible. Very good. They're a little synthetic, some of them are, but for the majority of them, the majority of these excellent fragrances, they're actually very nice and they actually smell absolutely incredible. And yes, compared to the $300 bottle of juice, they do smell different. The $300 bottle of juice will smell a little bit more authentic when you put your nose up against your hand like this. Us as fragrance enthusiasts, we get all carried away with our new purchases, our dissecting of fragrance. But in the reality of things, people are smelling you in the air, in passing, when you're talking to them, when you're on a date, when it's carrying through the air. It's not, people are not diving their nose into your hand like you are dissecting the fragrance. So if you find a fragrance that smells like 80% close to the $300 bottle, it is a very good clone, and it's going to smell absolutely amazing in the air. And it will do the same, it will pull the same compliments, it will pull the same attraction, and it will do the same thing in the air where it actually matters. Us as fragrance enthusiasts, and even me, I'm getting into perfumery, like actually testing things out and stuff, we can smell it. Enthusiasts can smell it. And what I would say to an enthusiast who's in it, buy the $300 bottle. Don't buy the $25 bottle of juice. If you're a real enthusiast and love fragrances and like the craft of it, yes, buy the $300 fragrance. Save up instead of buying the $20 clone. But for the majority of people, it smells the same in the air where it actually matters. Popular opinion number 1, Tom Ford is not that special. How dare you? Get out. New fragrances that come out that are considered the best of all time. Listen, I just smelled this thing. Listen, it's the best of all time. Guys, it's marketing. And it's a little clickbaity too. Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree. Like, I think in order for something to be the best of all time, it needs to be like cycled through a little bit, maybe like 2 months or so, like 3 months. I mean, yeah. Content creators slipping their collaboration fragrances or sponsored fragrances as a top 10 panty dropper, top 10 sexy, top 10 women killer of all time. One example, Blue Atlas. I actually bought a sample of Blue Atlas, Atlantis or whatever it is. And it's nice. It's like a fruity shampoo. It's like musky. It's nice. I don't own a bottle of it. I wasn't sent a bottle, but I bought a little sample of it. It's nice. It is really nice. But yes and no. As a fragrance content creator, it's tough because when you're sent a bottle, you specifically have a conversation with, at least I do, you specifically have a conversation with the rep or the company as all, like, they make sure that you know that you can say whatever you want. It's a complete honest review. At least all the fragrance reviews that I have done for companies. And then, I mean, if you really like a fragrance that somebody sends you, it's automatically assumed that it's biased, but in the reality of things, the fragrance reviewer could just really love that fragrance. So yes, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, being a content creator is hard when it comes to that fact because you can't, hype something up that was sent to you, because then you'll end up on Otajerks, being AI deep-faked. They're getting really sophisticated over there. It's actually quite amazing. So it is it's a real big double-edged sword because if you like a fragrance that was sent to you, it's a double-edged sword. It is a really double-edged sword. And anyway, I always struggle with it. I do. Realizing I have a problem and I need to stop buying so many fragrances. This hobby is getting expensive and crazy. Yeah, I mean, any hobby that you like really get into and just like start flooding all your time, attention, and money into, it can get really exhausting. I would say just limit yourself to maybe 1 fragrance a quarter, 4 fragrances a year, and really narrow down which ones you really want to get. And the other thing too, I would say, is stop watching fragrance content. If you're getting burnt out financially, emotionally, and it's just exhausting to keep up with all these fragrances, just stop watching fragrance content. And I know that sounds bad coming from a fragrance guy who's on the internet talking about fragrances, but if you can't handle the fragrance content, and I'm not saying that you can't handle it, you're not a man, like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you're just sick of dealing with listening to all these top 10 lists and all these, you need this one, you're not gonna be sexy without this fragrance. My best suggestion is just to stop watching fragrance content. Fragrances on their own won't get you anything. You have to be the whole package, attractive, approachable, have your shit together. So yeah, this is a big problem. The amount of pressure that is on young men nowadays to have all their shit together, dress nice, drive a fast car. Society and women expect so much from younger men that it's absolutely insane for a younger man to even compete in the world. So it's like these younger guys get so discouraged about, you know, this insane tall order that they have to fill. And if they don't fulfill that, they're never going to get a girlfriend. They're never going to get a wife. They're never going to get a high paying job. All this BS that society just vomits on young guys. So when you see like a fragrance, you know, video, and a fragrance, you know, can increase your confidence, get the lady, you know, all this stuff, it comes across like a cheat code. It comes across like, you know, wow, I just need to buy this bottle of Dior Sauvage and I can, you know, knock it out of the park. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. You have to put in the work. You have to, you know, grind it out. And, you know, I would encourage you to enjoy the process, because it is a long process. And it doesn't come easy, but it is definitely well worth it. So no, fragrances are not a cheat code. They just smell absolutely incredible. Just because an influencer posts a video with links doesn't mean you need to buy the 10th, doesn't mean you need to buy the 8th backup bottle. Save some for normal people. I totally agree with. Whenever I see somebody who has like 5 bottles of the same fragrance, it's kind of like, why? If you're a fragrance enthusiast, like, I get it if it's your signature scent and you don't care about the, you know, the grand scheme of things, like in fragrance. You just want to smell like that for the rest of your life. That's totally good. That's totally good. Buy a bunch of those bottles. But yeah, when there's like a sale going on and there's like 5 left, and, you know, people just order it because they're, you know, they need a backup bottle, is kind of weird. It's like shopping addiction / hoarding. Blind buy the clones, wear the hell out of them, then buy the big ticket real deal when I know the investment of $100 and $300 is worth it. Yeah, I would actually agree with that. With clones nowadays, you can pick up really great clones from like $20 all the way up to like $60 in that area. And they're actually really good. And sometimes you don't even need the real deal, because like I was saying before, in the air, these things smell absolutely the same. Fragrance enthusiasts, we just push our nose into, you know, and we dissect it little by little. But for the majority of people out there, smelling it in the air, it's gonna smell the same. But I would say if you're a real enthusiast and you want that, and you just want the real deal, just buy the bottle. Maybe don't blind buy. I don't usually blind buy anything over $200. If I'm blind buying over $200, I have a serious mental problem and I need to get some help. But also, then again, I'm a fragrance enthusiast, like, and a content creator now. So I actually, right now, I wouldn't have a problem blind buying more expensive fragrances because of my situation. Another one, please stop the 2 to 3 hour live streams, becoming very boring and drawn out. I totally agree. I don't know what, I mean, I know why it is, because now that I'm on the other side of the content creator, it's watch time. I mean, the more watch time you have, the more YouTube pushes your video. To a certain extent, it's like, guys, stop. This is getting really ridiculous. And it's actually kind of frustrating too, because, you know, I want to sit and watch a fragrance video, and the thumbnail will be like, unboxing the new Latafa or something like that. And you click on the video, and the video is 2 hours long, and you can't even find it. You can't find where the first reaction, and then they veer off. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't, the whole live stream thing is kind of like, you know, I understand why YouTube is pushing it, because it's interaction and all that stuff. Acqua di Gio Profumo is so overrated. I would disagree. It's great. It is great. It smells like an old man though. So, because if you're a younger guy, don't buy it. But yeah, I like it a lot. Those were some hot takes from you guys. You guys have some hot takes. By the time that this video goes live, I'm gonna most likely put out another one of these community post tabs so you can interact with me that way. So anyway, guys, take care, and we'll see you next time.